Think about lifting up that much weight that's slightly unbalanced, right? And then your feet not being on solid ground. Your feet being on not one rowboat, but two rowboats. Imagine that. That's what they're doing, carefully doing it slowly, and that's why it takes so long, right? Our contractors and Caltrans, we want to go quickly. We will not go and do anything out in the field until everything is just fine. So right now, we're making sure all the loads, all the potential connections are just fine. And as the tide starts to come up, CEC at times has used strand jacks. At times they've used hydraulic systems to push things up. In this case, they're very cleverly using nature. They're using the tide. These barges, as the tide comes up, and right here in the bay, the tide goes up and down about 7 feet in every cycle. So what they're doing is they're waiting for high tide, and as the water comes up, the barges start to come up. When the barges come up high enough, those blue beams will connect in and touch the bottom cords of the truss. They're very specifically placed at design locations where this truss can be picked up. And notice it's being picked up at locations it never was operational for. There's been a lot of careful engineering, a lot of careful design that went into knowing exactly where to pick it up at 4 points so we don't break it at those 4 points, right? And as the tide comes up, it brings up the barges. As soon as it connects onto the bottom of the trusses, the tide will continue to bring up the barges, the blue area, the support structure, and then it'll start to lift up the truss. But as we all learned in maybe high school physics, for every force, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So as the system pushes up on the truss and lifts it above the supports, the concrete pedestals, the truss is also pushing down with that same 1.7 million pounds, and it's pushing the barges back down into the water. So there's this delicate balancing act of this unbalanced steel up in the air, and then the unusual support conditions of two different barges that are, appropriately connected and designed to do this. The water, the tide, through the barges, through the support systems, pick up the 288s, and at the same time, all of that weight pushes the barges down into the water to displace the water to give us the buoyancy. So this is quite a carefully sequenced design thing, and the reason it's taken